All right, so what's going on, everybody? It's episode 3 of Off the Record with k.jachimowicz, and today's episode is specifically about why you should push your art to the absolute limits, with a reference to the movie Terrifier 3 as a point. So, this is a movie that I don't know how many of you guys have seen, and you really don't even have to see this movie for this philosophy to be of some value to you, possibly. But like this movie is basically just a very extreme horror movie, and at this point, now that there's good money behind it, it's got a very good artistic edge to it too. But in my opinion. But it basically, as a movie, just uses itself as a metaphor for pushing artistic boundaries, like in any field, to the absolute brink. Like the reactions these movies get, like some of you've probably seen, where like they kind of do the whole marketing scheme of like, people are running out of the theater, they're disgusted, and like a shock value kind of marketing move. But so this movie started off like totally indie, I believe, like just underground. It's directed by this guy Damien Leone, and the actor of the Art the Clown guy is David Howard Thornton, I believe his name is. And so like just the reaction this movie gets and how it shocks the audiences makes such waves in the horror genre. And like, to me, I'm just trying to say and think about, like, what can artists learn from this approach? And, like, for me, I found this series through that viral marketing and during the second movie's release. And I went and saw that second movie by myself in the theaters after work one night. And I love horror movies, so I, like, didn't mind it, but I was unsettled kind of at how like intense it was, because I just didn't really know that like movies were out there in the mainstream like that, pushing it this far. And then like time went on, and it like the shock value like really piqued my interest like as time went on for some reason. And like and yeah, like the clown in that movie, like as a character, just represents like such boundary pushing nature, like just completely disturbing. It just makes you totally question the limits of like cinema in general. Like, what, you know what I mean? Like, and like it's truly an experience of a movie. Like, it made me start thinking about movies differently in terms of like behind the scenes interest in like makeup and effects. And it really proves to me that you should push your art to the total limit and be completely unapologetic about it. Because when you do that, it creates this situation where it like is legitimately almost impossible to top that piece of work, simply due to the sheer ballsiness of publishing something that garners such a reaction that most people or studios are not at all interested in managing or dealing with personally or for their companies, like socially or financially speaking, kind of, if you catch my drift. And like my experience watching that third movie, like, man, that is just, to me, that is a horror movie masterpiece. And like, what is the point of art really here? Like, isn't art supposed to garner a reaction out of the audience? Like, isn't that the whole purpose of this? Like, I feel like there's so many movies that are just straight up like comfort food, and that's not what art is supposed to be. Like, art is supposed to push it to the limit, man. Like, people definitely want some of this too. People want to go see something badass, something that's not like following all these agendas and like staying safe, like, and all this stuff. Like, people want someone to just throw paint at the wall and go crazy. You know what I mean? That's what I want personally, like out of artists in general. That's always been my favorite kind of artists. The ones that are totally unapologetic and just push it to the limit. And for me, what made this movie, the third one, a game changer is really just like the elevation of the art in cinematography. Because the first two movies are like kind of rough around the edges. The second one, not so much. but the first one definitely. But that third one is like, there's no movie in my opinion that I've seen. Please feel free to tell me ones that come close to this because I'd love to see them. But yeah, like that movie is a game changer, and I don't see. I'm like having trouble understanding like how these studios that make these horror movies are gonna like compete with that, because they're all concerned about like toeing the line and not taking it too far. And it's like this guy who was kind of like underground and just rose up to the mainstream, Damien Leone and everybody in that cast, like these studios aren't going to be able to top that, because these guys will go anywhere and they don't have like anything to lose in that. You know what I mean? Like, whereas these other studios have like, you know, things to worry about with going so far. And like some points, just like the unapologetic nature of it, the way it doesn't cater to anything like sensible. It doesn't hold back at all on visceral and psychological fear. Like, it forces the audience to have a reaction. Like, there's no way you're going to sit in your seat and watch that movie and not say or do something or squirm or whatever. And like, so just the lessons that you can learn from that, from a movie like that, or an artist like that, or a photographer like that, a effects artist like that, anyone that's willing to take it that far, you can learn so much from that as an artist. Musicians too, like any of these musicians that just take it all the way, they say something they're not supposed to say or whatever. Like this, I mean, it's like what happens when you push through self-doubt and the fear of rejection. And I feel like so many artists hold back. Maybe it's even like 1%. Just to like make sure their work is like marketable and like in a safe space, rather than like diving all in with that vision. Like, you need to go all out. Forget the comments. Who cares? Go all out in your vision. None of the noise matters. And yeah, like the risks of unapologetic art, like the risk is that like people are going to talk crap about you. It doesn't even matter, because there's a famous, like, I don't know if it's famous, but there's like a interview of Rick Rubin. I don't remember with who. I think it might have been with Zane Lowe. That doesn't matter. But Rick Rubin makes this point of how, like, forget the audience. It's about you as the artist or creator. And you need to do what's right for you as the artist and creator, and not concern yourself with the noise of the audience 24/7. And yeah, like also the power of creating something that elicits such a strong reaction, whether positive or negative. This is where true artistry lies. Pushing the limits until it becomes straight up like unmanageable. Like, that is really, in my opinion, where the real deal art is at. I mean, I don't want to list off like other people like that, but and why it's so hard to top something like that. It's like these people are taking massive risks, first of all. Like, they're putting themselves all the way out there, making themselves fully vulnerable to allow the media, the box office, the audience, the fans, anyone to just obliterate them if they fail. And how the boldness of like an artist's work just totally sets new standards, making everyone else like scramble to keep up with it, because it becomes like a benchmark that these other filmmakers or creators or whatever genre you want to talk about cannot mimic. The key message is that being willing to stand alone or even alienate a portion of your audience can legit propel you to new levels of success. And I'm not saying that's guaranteed. Of course it's not. It has to be done strategically and intelligently and like very smartly to be successful. But it's just something really to think about for artists and creators out there, in my opinion. And for me personally, just like personal artistic growth, like that's kind of something I like went through, not like at that level, obviously, but just like with my photography when I was younger, like 6-7 years ago, when I first started like doing nightclub stuff, or, you know, like shooting with models and all this stuff that was a little bit boundary pushing for me at that time and that age, like for sure. And I encourage everyone to get themselves into uncomfortable territory. Take risks in your work, like challenge yourselves where you might be holding back in your own art, or you might feel like, oh, like I gotta accommodate this person, or I don't want to get a bad comment about this. I don't want someone to like call me out on this. Who cares? Let them call you out on it. Make a mistake in front of them and let them call you out on it and make another one that's even better. And yeah, with that, I think I'm gonna wrap up this episode. I think there's some good insight in there you guys could take from that. If you're a creator, artist, photographer, podcaster, whatever you do, like take those risks. Go all the way in your vision, fully, because there's no point not to. And the only thing holding you back is other people's opinion and your own fear. So, with that, you guys should go see that movie if you're not too scared. And have a good night.